Zoom lecture has its own downside.
Yeah,
so some of you may be experiencing network issues. Some of you may not be able to log in at all. Some of you log in and then obviously network issues, you'll be logged out, in and out. But that is the nature of the beast, because like everything in life, there are good side and bad side about it. Having said that, we still have to, be involved in some amount of Zoom teaching and learning. So I decided today that we will use the Zoom, but most likely next week we'll meet face to face. So enjoy the Zoom whilst it lasts. This is lecture 3 and 4. So we are going to start looking at, of course, what we've been doing, lecture 1 and 2, we were trying to look at, or we're trying to understand the nature of strategy management, for that matter, strategy, and all the key concepts that this course comes with. And I'm sure that right now we have some, a very good understanding of what this course is about. And last week we did complete lecture 1 and 2. And I remember we got to the last slide, and some of you were in a hurry to go because I think it was 3 minutes past 2. And we were on the last slide, and I started explaining it. But I also told you guys, when you get home, read about it, because that information, you can find it in Fred David. That book that I said is the course book for the semester, for this course. And I remember we began to talk about fallacies by Mainsberg. I hope you still remember the fallacy of detachment, the fallacy of formalization, and the fallacy of prediction. I'm sure you remember, which were on the last slide. That I told you that when you go read more about it. Yes, am I talking to everyone here? Can you hear me, what I said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so when you go home, so it's 1 week now. So when you go home, did you read about Mainsberg's fallacies with regard to strategy management? The fact that SM, of course, is a good thing for organization to be involved in. There are also some fallacies, and I remember saying that a fallacy is anything that is, is not true, but is seen to be true. Okay, a fallacy is something that is seen as not believable. So when we say, oh, this is a fallacy, then we mean that this is not true. So Mainsberg proposed those 3 fallacies: the fallacy of prediction, fallacy of detachment, and fallacy of formalization. More or less what he was trying to do or say was that as much as SM is a good thing for organization to be involved in, it has its own fallacies. And I hope that when you go home, you read about it, because it was important that I reinforced that. So I hope you did. Did you or you did not?
Sir, Sir, some of us read some of it. I read about the fallacy of detachment.
And how come you didn't read about the other one, fallacy of formalization and fallacy of?
Yeah, I read them, but I can't remember those ones off the top of my head. Only the detachment that I can remember off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. And I'm pretty sure some didn't even look at it at all. Some even didn't even open the book. I'm sure some didn't even open the book.
I don't know about that.
Sorry?
I can't tell about that. Sir.
No, you cannot tell. You are not a soothsayer. You cannot predict what people do in their homes. So I'm not expecting you to know, but I know that for a fact that some people didn't even open the book the whole week. I know, and they know themselves, What, okay, what's your name that you said you read, at least you read, and you remember something about the fallacy of detachment, but not the other ones. What's your name?
Kweku Daku.
Kudazi.
Daku.
Okay, Kudaku. Okay. All right. Another thing that I have to say is that next time that we meet on Zoom, I want everybody to log in with their full name. So I don't want aliases. I want to be able to like know you that you are online rather than using aliases. And I also want to alert Ernestina. Are you there? Ernestina?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ernestina. Yeah, make sure those accounting students who are attending the lecture today, you take attendance. After the lecture, you WhatsApp it to me.
Okay, sir.
If anyone didn't attend, don't write the name. It's a criminal and it's against the will of God. Don't do it. Now, Eunice, are you there?
Yes, sir. Please, I'm here.
Yeah, you do the same thing. Yeah, if anyone didn't attend, don't add their name because it's a criminal offense, and not only that, it's also against the will of God.
Okay, sir.
And is it Charity?
Yes, sir.
Bloody Charity, you're there?
Yes, please.
All right, so you do the same thing, yeah?
Okay, sir.
If anyone didn't attend, please don't add their name. After the lecture, then you send it to me by WhatsApp. And last but not least, Jessica, are you there? Jessica, are you there? Jessica is, I think, probably struggling to log on. All right, so you alert whenever she's able to log on. Please kindly alert her for me. I'm talking to you, Eunice, Charity, and then of course Ernestina.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
All right. And this also, by the way, yesterday, Eunice and Ernestina, and of course Jessica, they were on my back because by the evening I've not sent a link, even though of course I knew I was going to send it because I was even trying to tell them I'm a typical British man, my word is my bond, but for some reason they didn't trust me. Can you imagine? They didn't trust me that I was going to send the link.
Oh, sir.
So the only person probably who trusted me that was going to send the link was bloody Charity. But Charity didn't WhatsApp me, didn't call me. But bloody Eunice WhatsApp me. Bloody Jessica WhatsApp me. In fact, bloody Jessica even called me as well. Can you imagine? Bloody Ernestina also WhatsApp me. So I was saying, bloody hell, you have to trust me. Okay. Yeah. It was intentional because I didn't want to send the link so early. Normally you send the link and people will not even forget about it. So you leave it as much like you make it a little bit late. You don't send it so early. So that's why I decided to send it in the evening. Right. So I hope you trust me because at least you got it. Okay. Now, so today we are going to look at lecture 3 and 4. And if you are not able to finish, next week, as I said, we'll try and then meet face to face. And if there's anything that you don't understand, then we'll go through. Also, the fact that I said Zoom has its own challenges. So when we meet and anything that you didn't understand today, then you can ask the question. So today's topic is strategic formulation. Yes. And we are looking at an aspect of it, the external environment, assessment of the external environment. Already we know that when the company is assessing or auditing the external environment, it is part of formulation. When the company is even involved in the assessment of internal environment, it's also part of the formulation. The reforming of strategic mission, vision, goals, objectives, they are all part of the formulation. For the sake of learning, we have tried to, we're breaking the whole thing down. So don't be surprised that I'm saying that strategic formulation, the external environmental assessment. When we are done with this, hopefully next week we'll be done with it, and they will strategy formulation, internal environmental assessment. All right, so without any delay, let me go on and show you the learning outcomes. So by the time we finish with lecture 3 and 4, minimum, you should be able to explain the nature of the external environment. So the characteristics of the external environment. Okay, bear in mind, we are focusing on the external environment. 2, you should be able to explain some of the specific tools that we can use as organizations to evaluate or audit or assess the external environment. 3, we'll be looking at, as part of learning about the tools that we can use to analyze the external environment, we'll be looking at specific tools, and one of them is called EFE matrix. So you should be able to prepare EFE matrix. Okay, the EFE means external factor evaluation. External factor evaluation. And then you should also be able to explain another tool that we can use to audit the external environment. Cortex 5 forces. Some of you have heard before. So it's more or less you're going to know how we use it to analyze the external environment. And then as subtopic within external environmental analysis, we are going to look at competitive dynamics. And within this subtopic, we'll be able to learn about what we mean by competitors, what we mean by competitive rivalry and competitive behavior, and also what we mean by market commonality, resource similarity. I repeat, market commonality, resource similarity. So all these will be made very simple for you to explain. And when we get there, I'm going.
At the age of 60 minutes, if I close like I put
Who's that bloody? Who is that bloody? Make sure you mute your speaker. If you want to ask a question, then you can unmute it. So we don't want any disadvantages. Right. So let me move on. As for this diagram, you've seen it so many times. Okay, so I wanted to draw your attention the fact that we are here. Okay, we are here. We are here. Let me take this one a little bit up. Yeah, so we are here. Sorry, we are here. We are the external environment. Can you see I'm trying to draw something over there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
so you've seen I'm trying to circle the external environment where we are.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so that's where we are. All right. So this diagram, don't forget. Okay, it tells you everything about SM. Okay. Now let me move on from there. Then let me move on to the next. Now, so I'm on slide number 4. Okay. So the question is, what is environmental assessment? And another question is, what is the environment? The environment is part of organizations, is that, how do I even put it? Whenever we say environment is a space. It's a space, and that space, part of that space, organizations can control it, and part of it they cannot control it. And the part that they cannot control is the external environment, and the part they can control the internal environment. And because that environment is unpredictable, if organizations don't assess it or don't evaluate it, then they will be in trouble. Okay, so it is important that as part of the strategy formulation, and for you to help them formulate their business strategies, they have to evaluate that environment and find out what it is bringing, whether it is bringing opportunities or threats, so that they will be able to avoid the threats at all costs and take advantage of the opportunities. already we have defined what we mean by strategy formulation. So we are not going to, spend so much time on it. But all that I'm saying that assessment of the external environment is part of strategy formulation. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. And strategy formulation, of course, as I've stated there, involves analyzing the external and internal environment. Bear in mind that today we are focusing on the external environment. And analyzing those environments are the basis for organizations to formulate their current strategies. If possible, reform, and also measure what they will do. By measuring, they'll be able to compare to what they were able to achieve. So I'm talking about planned goals, planned mission, planned vision, planned strategies, and actual goals and actual mission, and so forth and so forth. So they'll be able to compare. And if they were not able to achieve it, then they will be able to do some changes, do some revision. Okay. Now, as part of that environmental assessment, there are some tools that we can use to analyze that environment. And one of them is PESTLE. PESTLE, I'm sure you guys heard of it in level 100. Those of you who doing marketing. Anybody here doing marketing? No. Is anybody here doing marketing? No. There's no marketing, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Charity.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is it charity?
Yes, please, sir.
Charity and Co. Okay, Charity and Co. You are doing marketing, so you've heard of PESTLE, and I'm sure you've heard of TOES as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And those of you who also, and the management and the accounting people who started from level 100, I'm sure that because you did principles of management, you've heard of PESTLE, you've heard of TOES. Maybe what you have not heard of is EFE, external factor evaluation, or have you heard of it? Have you heard of EFE?
No,
sir.
yes, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, but you've heard of Porter's 5 forces.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. And we also be looking at competitor profile matrix. But you can use the CPM. We call it CPM. You can use CPM not only to analyze the internal environment and external environment. So I've decided that for competitor profile matrix, I will treat it when we get to the internal environmental assessment. So for the external environmental assessment, we are going to look at PESTLE as a tool that we can use to analyze the external environment, and also TOES, the tool that we can use, and also EFE, and also Porter's 5 forces. So, now, before we begin to look at those tools, I want to draw your attention to the reason why companies should be able to analyze their environment, and they should be able to use those tools. Like all things in life, time changes everything. And already I've said that the external environment keeps changing, and it will continue to change. The external environment of organizations will keep changing, and it will continue to change. Things that you and I, as customers, things that we like today, tomorrow we don't like. So it is for organizations to find out our needs and our wants. Because if they don't find out about our needs and our wants, they will drift from us. They will drift from us. And if the company is drifting from us, then it means that company is drifting from the external environment, because we, the customers, we are part of that external environment. And so there is a relationship between the external environment and strategic drift. And as the word implies, drifting, if you are drifting from somebody, that means you are moving away from that somebody. So with time, companies can move away. Listen, bloody. If you are in your room and you think you are having fun, don't disturb us. Do not disturb us. Else I will cut you off. I will log you off. Okay. Now, so as I was saying, with time, companies drift from the external environment. And I said, you and I, we are part of that external environment. And that drift can cause a company collapse. The moment you are drifting from your customer, that means you are doing or you are producing goods and services that they don't want. So strategic drift happens when the strategy of an organization that is already established is no longer relevant to the external environment. That means whatever you are doing, people don't like because you have failed to find out what they like. And that drift can be as a result of many factors. And we mentioned it before here. If a business fails to adapt the changing environment, then it is what we call strategic drift. If you fail to adapt, because as I said, our needs, our fashion, our taste, with time, they change. All these things, they change with time. So if you're a company that you are producing a particular product, you think customers will continue to want that product in the foreseeable future, you may be in trouble. You need to find out from time to time whether they still want it so that you continue to produce it. Another factor that can lead to strategic drift is that sometimes companies, they discover something, and that discovery worked at time. And they assume that it will continue to work. The world we live in doesn't work like that. That is, discovery that worked before, it is possible that it will not continue to work in the future. And so if you don't find out, you are drifting. Another factor that can lead to strategic drift is that companies sometimes become complacent. That is, complacency sets in, often due to previous successes. And because they were successful in the past, management assumed they will continue to be successful in the future. But the world we live in doesn't work like that. The last but not least is that sometimes in some organizations, senior management think they know all. Even when there are problems, they think and believe there's no problem. And by the time they realize, it is too late. Typical examples are Capital Bank, UT Bank, Unibank. The problems were obvious for some people to see, but management failed to act and react, and they are no more.
No.
Yes.
What is the first point and the second point? Companies adapting to the environment, and companies the discovery that is no longer working. Isn't it the same? The environment changing, or I mean, the environment could either be internal or external. Either of them changing. That's why the discovery is no longer working.
Yeah, but bear in mind, yes, I agree with what you are saying. And it is so true. You see, bear in mind that it's not just about your internal, it's also about the external. So the discovery, of course, the discovery was internal. But you also have to evaluate the external, whether they still want that discovery. So here we are focusing no more on discovery, which is internal, but we are focusing on the fact that whatever you have is no more wanted. But who doesn't want it? It's the external environment.
All right.
Yes, you don't produce goods as a company and sell it to yourself. You don't, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. You focus on the external environment. Okay. So if you focus on yourself, it's like those of you who are doing marketing, there is what we call a pull strategy, and a push strategy. Okay, the pull strategy is you more or less, you produce something, then you offer it to the customer, whether they like you or not. Okay, and some companies they involve themselves in that strategy. Okay, and others involve themselves in the push is they produce the product, they push it onto you, whether you like it or not. And others they pull you, that means they find out what you want, they deliver. So if you have a discovery, you are not finding out from the external environment whether they want it. In time, they may not want it, but because you are focusing on your company and what you produce, you drift. Yes. So, of course, that second point focuses on both internal and external. But I want you to focus on the external part of it. The idea that discovery, the external environment doesn't want it anymore. Is it making sense now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right. All right. So when it comes to strategic drift, there are 4 phases, and I want to draw your attention to that. The first phase, okay, let me see if I can draw it. I know we are, let me see if I can draw that one. I think it will be. So it's maybe, okay, I'll, can you see my drawing? Can you see on the slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
There is
sir.
the vertical.
Yes, sir.
You can see it, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The
So we can
vertical.
see it, so, but it is
Yes, sir.
going through your slides itself.
Yeah, don't worry. Yes, I'll clean
Okay.
them later. I'll clean them.
Okay then. Thank you.
So you see the vertical and you see the horizontal, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So normally a company is established and then the environment will be going like that. The environment will be changing. It will be changing with time. With time, the environment is changing like that. So the horizontal, I want you to think that it's time. The horizontal is time, and the time can be in years, in months, and then in weeks. So consider it that way. So I'm trying to write time there. I'm using my mouse and it's not okay. So time, and then the vertical. I want you to consider is that it's the drift. Okay, the drift. All right. So the vertical is all the changes that you can think about. So that drift, incremental change, of course, strategic drift, flux, and transformational change, and depth. Now here, let me see if I can use a different color so that will be clear. Color, okay, I'm using red. See. So here, and then here, and then here, and then here, 4. Now, this line, as I've said, is the external environment. It keeps changing. So with time, the environment changes. Okay, I want you to look at it. So with time, I'm on the horizontal, the environment changes. Now, if the environment is changing, then organizations should also be changing. So so the first part is that more often than not, when companies will be changing with the external environment. So the red is companies, they are changed. Okay? And then the one in black is the environmental change. So companies, so you can see that they are more or less together. As the environment changes, the strategy of the organization is changing to adapt to the external environment. Okay, so if you keep going like that, then you will survive. If you keep changing with the external environment like that, you survive because you are always doing what the external environment is doing. If the external environment changes, you change. That is what it's supposed to be. But the reality is that it is not like that. Some companies, initially, they will produce what the customer wants. So they change with the environment. And then suddenly they begin to drift from the external environment. Okay? And as they begin to drift, we call it strategic drift. But that part from here, whereby the company keeps changing its strategy to adapt to the changing environment, it is called incremental change. So incremental change is a series of small incremental changes to the strategy of a business so that they can remain in touch with the external environment. This is what it's supposed to be. Then strategic drift is whereby, or it's a scenario whereby the rate of change, and let me use a different color, okay? Let me use a different color there. Whereby here is what we call strategic drift. The rate of change in the external environment is so big compared to the rate of change with regard to the strategy of the business. So please know, strategic drift is a scenario whereby the rate of change in the external environment is accelerating so big that those incremental changes in the strategy of the organization are not enough to catch up with the environmental changes. And so the business begins to lose advantage because then the gap is opening. If the company doesn't do anything about this drift, then it will lead to flux. So flux is whereby the change becomes very big, very, very, very big, like that. So now you can see that the gap between the external environment and the strategy of the company is so big, and that is what we call flux. Flux is a scenario whereby there is now a significant gap between what the environment is expecting or what the market is expecting and what the business is delivering. So the company is doing something that is so different from what the customer and for that matter the market wants. Just drift. You should be, as an organization, you should be able to realize that and then make changes so that you go back, it becomes like you go back again and then becomes incremental change. So that change your strategy, you have to change your product, you have to focus on different customers, you have to deliver hope and make you successful. If you fail to do that, right? Huh?
Yes, a question.
Can't hear you.
So if a customer is if a
your network is not good. I can't hear you.
company, hello.
Okay, yes, talk. It was breaking now.
If a company adopts a strategy of a product which is of a necessity.
Necessity to who?
It's a necessity
you or to the
product.
customer?
The customer.
Yes.
Over time, would the company have to change its strategy since that particular strategy is still working? The product, whether the product is
Yes.
I'm saying that it's a necessity product. Yes, the product in question is a necessity to the customer. When the company adopts a strategy over time, is it necessary for the company to change its strategy again?
Okay. Now, you use the word necessity. Bear in mind, you can mute now. You can mute your. But echo, there was an echo coming. Bear in mind, life, all of us will move on. what is a necessity today may not be a necessity tomorrow. So, as an organization, if you are producing a product which is a necessity to the customer, don't assume that that customer will continue to derive product. Remember what I said. I don't know whether it was your group. For some customers, sachet water is a necessity. But with time, they don't like sachet water anymore. With time, they move on. They move on to bottled water. Bottled water becomes a necessity. So if you keep producing sachet water, you think that customer will want it for the rest of his life or her life, you are in trouble. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Understand that.
Yes, sir.
Understand that if human beings, when, for instance, you guys, when you were not working, you were drinking sachet water. Sachet water was a necessity compared to tap water.
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
Now, some of you are working, earning good money. So you don't drink sachet water anymore. Now, the necessity for you is bottled bloody water.
Exactly, sir.
And that's the point. So our needs and our wants, that's why initially I was saying our needs and our wants, they change with our status. They change with time. So that is why the organization or organization should find out. The finding out is through assessment of that environment to find out whether our needs have changed. Then now they can produce bottled. If they want to keep us, they have to produce bottled water. If not, move on to a company that produces bottled water. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Please, I also have a question.
It's one of the sir.
Sorry? Oh, somebody, you said you have a question. Yes, bring out your question.
Yeah, sir. Please, what we everything we've done so far this morning. I wanted to ask, with organizations that feel they don't need to
Analyze the environment.
Yes, like for example, Ghana Commercial Bank. Everybody knows that a Ghana Commercial Bank, they have a lot of branches all around the country,
Yes.
but they don't feel the need to change their strategy to compete with the other banks because they know at the end of the day, people will still come to them. With such organizations, how do they go about formulating a strategy? Because they don't, because at the end of the day, they are not following the same rules that exist that most of the people follow.
Yes,
Sir, also to add to what my brother said, what about goodwill? How does goodwill plays in the situation? All right, when a product has a goodwill.
All right, it's a goodwill. I don't want when we go on and talk about the internal environment. Goodwill will be part of what we'll be talking about. Goodwill is a resource. The resource companies can use to achieve competitive advantage over time. Okay, and it's an internal thing. It's a resource that is internal. So if you have a goodwill, you can use it to achieve an advantage. Yes, customers will be coming to you. On its own will not be enough. I will rather leave it when we get to the internal environment, when we are talking about resources, tangible, intangible, capabilities, core competencies, we'll talk about it. Goodwill is what? It's an intangible resource. We'll talk about it when we get there. But coming back to the question, the reality is that Ghana Commercial Bank have a strategy. Don't get it wrong. They have a strategy. But that strategy that they have it will be based on the idea as well that it is more or less, it is it is backed by the government. Ghana Commercial Bank is a bank that is owned by the government. So they cannot, as you said, they cannot follow the same rules as the other banks that are private. So in business, there is one rule for the private organizations, there's another for the government. But let me tell you, even the public ones, like if I say public, if it's government, it is public. The public organizations like GCB, the fact that it is owned by the government, they continue to do the thing that they are doing, the future will not be bright. Because a time is coming, the government may make a decision that they want to privatize it, and they will sell it. They will sell it into private ownership. Recently, you know, when MPP came, do you remember they wanted to sell ECG, private ownership? Do you remember?
Yes.
Exactly.
Sir.
Exactly. That is the point. So that is why a lot of companies, if you go to the developed world, most of these utilities, like the water companies, the electricity companies, are in private hands. They have opened up the market so that there will be competition, because they realize that competition is the only way these companies can survive. So don't get it wrong. Yes, they have a strategy, but they are also backed by the government. So if they are collapsing, the Ghana government will not allow GCB to collapse. They'll pump money to support it. But if you're a private organization, you don't do the right thing. When you are collapsing, the government will let you collapse. It's as simple as that. So yes, the rules are not the same, but time changes everything. The fact that Ghana Commercial Bank is doing the same thing, not being innovative, but doing the same thing, it doesn't mean that in the next 20 years, Ghana Commercial Bank will still be there, because time is going to catch up on them. The government will come and say enough is enough. Ghana Commercial Bank we want to privatize it, and they will sell it if they continue not to change. And also bear in mind that the Ghana Commercial Bank, because it's government, it's got almost all the government employees putting their money in that bank. Their salaries coming through that bank. So it is an advantage which they may have, others may not have. But I'm also telling you that it will not be forever. That is why we'll go and look at the PESEL. When we are looking at the PESEL, which is a tool that we can use to analyze the environment, Ghana Commercial Bank should be aware that political change can change the fortunes of Ghana Commercial Bank. The new government can come in and say, GCB, we are privatizing the company, and they will sell it. So don't be surprised if that happens in the coming future. Don't be surprised. But yes, they have a strategy. Okay? The strategy has given them a lot of money, giving them a lot of customers. Part of that strategy is that they always ensure that if you are working for the government, most people, their salaries are paid into GCB. That's a strategy. So you can imagine the monies that is flowing into GCB as an organization. So yes, they have a strategy, but it's backed by government. All right. Any other question? Any other question? Any other question? Any other question, guys?
No, sir.
All right.
No, sir.
No, sir.
So for the good work, when we begin to talk about internal environment, because if I want to talk more about it, well, it will distract us from the goal that we have in front of us today. But all that you have to understand is that goodwill is an intangible resource companies can use to achieve an advantage. Okay, but that in itself is not good enough. Whatever resource that you have should be value. If I say value, I didn't want to talk about all those things, but when we get there, you understand what I mean by value. Value is an acronym. Okay, let's move on. Now, so as I was saying, if you are facing a flux. Your best bet to survive is to transform. That means there should be a transformational change so that you go and adapt. So that means you adapt your environment to where the environment is moving. Okay, so that would be transformational change. If you don't transform, and for that matter, if you don't involve your company in transformational change and find the right strategies that you can use to transform your organization, the only way would be F. Let me use another color so that you can see it clearly. Let me use let me use pink. So if you don't transform, you want to continue to do the same thing as you are doing, like GCB, as you said, GCB is doing, the company will end up dying. But in their case, maybe not because they would die, but because any government can come in and privatize the company. They will sell the company to private ownership. It will be tantamount to what? Death. So I want you to understand that strategic drift have got 4 phases. It's called the incremental change. Of course, your strategies and everything that you are doing is aligned with the external environment. If you don't continue to do that, then you drift. You drift. Okay, that is this one. This here is the drift. You begin to drift. If you don't make any changes, then there will be flux. Flux means you are so far away from the external environment in terms of what you are doing. Okay, strategies, everything is not aligned that external environment. If that's the case, and you find out be involved in transformational change. That means move up, align yourself to the external environment. If you don't, the only future you have is death. So transformational change or death, it's a scenario that either management recognize the need for massive change in strategy, direction, or they will face death. That means the business will fail. When the company is facing these massive problems, normally they have to change the leadership so that the leader will come in and give the company a new direction. Many companies have faced this issue that we are trying to talk about with regards to GCB, that if they don't change, they will face the same problem. Kodak. Have you heard of Kodak? Have you heard of Kodak?
Yes, sir.
What did they do? What did they do?
Photography.
Exactly. There was a time that before the advancement of digital technology, everything was analog. Kodak was a pioneer in analog photography. They were leaders in that technology. They failed to adapt to the changing environment. They drifted. There was a flux. Now they are struggling. They are struggling to survive. Please mute your speaker. If you want to talk, then you unmute. Kodak failed to respond to rapid development and take up of digital photography. Even though they were part of the companies that created analog technology. Now, I want you, after the lecture, go online and I want you to read about Kodak, where they were and where they are now. And it will help you to understand strategic drift in better. Okay.
So there's a very short, nice video on YouTube about the rise and fall of Kodak.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. You log on, everybody. See, as a company, you don't want to become like Kodak. So that's why I'm saying everybody log on, read about Kodak. And I'm glad that you mentioned it. There was a nice video. You can watch the video or you can do the reading. Okay, and then understand what strategic drift can do to organizations. Now, Sony is another company that is also struggling. Sony could have been the Apple of today, but Sony was comfortable. They were complacent. Now Sony is struggling. Look at where Apple is. Sony is nowhere near. Another company that is struggling is Nokia. Nokia would have been Apple of today. And Nokia lost their dominant global market leadership, mobile phones, by failing to respond to smartphone. All the yams that we are using now, the technology was based on Nokia's technology. And they didn't go ahead to bring out smart technology, smartphone. And when other companies came in with smartphones, they were nowhere. So I also want you to read about Nokia, where they were and where they are now. And nobody wants Nokia phone. They want what? They want Apple. They want Samsung. They've been left behind. So the moment you drift, you'll be left behind. Any question?
Yes, sir.
That's your question.
It's on the transformational change. You mentioned strategic direction and leadership. I wanted to know if these are the only two places that we can.
Oh, no. Of course, you understand. Now we speak the same language. So the mission has to be a change in mission, a change in vision, change in goals. The whole dynamics must change. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Because the vision is where you are going. If where you are going, you're going to fall in the ditch. Do you continue to move in the same direction? You have to change the direction. That direction, I'm talking about the vision.
Okay.
Yeah. So your approach in strategy, however you used to do in the past, you cannot continue to do the same thing. You have to change. There should be massive changes. And that's what we call transformational change. Right. Let's move on. So I'm now on slide number 7. Yes, as you look at that heading, the strategy formulation, external and internal analysis, but we are not interested in the internal analysis now. I just wanted to draw your attention that the external and internal analysis can be formal and informal, okay, because we are still talking about strategy formulation. So I'm saying that SF may be formal or informal. It is iterative. If I say iterative, it is you keep doing it over and over again. That means repetitive. You cannot stop analyzing the environment. If you want to continue to inherit that kingdom of that environment, you have to continue to, it should be repetitive, continuous, and then whatever feedbacks you build the feedback into the system. You keep changing day in, day out. Okay. So the SF that I'm talking about, I'm still talking about SP. That SP, that means strategic planning or strategic formulation. Of course, we are talking about the assessment or auditing of the internal and external environment, so that you'll be able to find out your competitive situation, whether you are competitive or not. If you are no more competitive, you have to change. You have to change your strategies, you have to change your vision, you have to change your goals, and so forth and so forth. Not only at the corporate level, but even at the business level, at the functional level. Okay. So with SF, as we have already identified, it's a process that involves planning and decision making that will lead to the establishment of the organization's goals, or that will lead to the re-establishment of the goals and plans of the organization. Okay. So the need for SF and for that matter, analysis of the external environment can never be underestimated. Now I'm on slide 8. Have you seen the diagram?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
The diagram is headed the relationship between firm. The firm I'm talking about the external environment. So the relation between the firm, the external environment. And that external environment has certain forces. So for today, I don't want to focus on the firm, that is the internal environment. Have you also seen that within the diagram, you've seen, I've numbered them, 1, 2A, 2B, 2C. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
The
sir.
one we are not going to focus on the one. The one is the internal environment. So we'll focus on it when we are dealing with internal environment. But I want us to focus on 2A, 2B, 2C. Okay. And 2A, 2B, 2C are all part of the external environment. So therefore, for the sake of learning at this level, I want you to consider that the external environment consists of three environments: the operating environment, the industry environment, the remote environment. Another name for operating environment is task or market. So when you hear task environment, market environment, you know that we are talking about the operating environment. It's part of the external environment. 2B, industry environment. That is where a company's, you can use Porter's 5 forces to analyze the environment. That is where you have a lot of your competitors. Yes, you find your competitors in the operating environment, also find competitors in the industrial environment. The industrial environment, the market environment, they are intertwined. Okay, because in the operating environment, you find your competitors there. In the industrial environment too, you find your competitors there. Okay. So those of you who are aware of Porter's 5 forces, if you look at the industrial environment, I've enumerated the forces with regard to Porter's 5 forces: competitive rivalry, buyer power, the supplier power, substitute, entry barriers. We are not going to talk about it now, but we'll talk about it when we get to 5 forces, which is part of lecture 3 and 4. Now, 2C, the remote environment, is the environment that is far away from firm. It is far away from the internal environment. But the impact this remote environment can bring upon the firm or the internal environment is huge and can never be underestimated. Remember what I said, that DCB can never underestimate political force that the forces that politics can bring on it, because any party, any change of government or any party can decide, you go to parliament, they will put it into law, they say now DCB is going to be sold. DCB, the leadership cannot do anything about it. So I'm pretty sure that they are aware of this political force. I'm pretty sure. Okay. They should also be aware of the social force. They should also be aware of the economic force. So what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to the remote environment, we can use PESEL to analyze the environment. The political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecological, they are the acronym. The acronym of these factors is PESEL. So clearly, you are beginning to have an understanding of the difference between the external environment and the internal environment, the forces that make up this external environment. And for that matter, I'm talking about the 3 parts of the external environment: the internal environment, the industrial environment, and the remote environment. Okay, let's move on to slide number 9. So we're talking about external environmental analysis. It's about identifying and evaluating trends events, developments that is beyond the control of the organization in question. Like I was saying about 10, 15 minutes ago, that some of you, where you are living now, the next 10 years, you may not be living there. The point I'm trying to make is that population shift. You and I, one day we are living in one place. When we make money and we can afford all the trappings of this world, we want to go and live in posh areas. Some of you will go and live in Asako. So all that I'm saying is that as far as local communities are concerned, population shift. We move from one place to another, depending on our status. If that is the case, then there's a need for organizations to be finding out whether where we are working, we are still working there, whether if we are still poor or we are still rich, because our circumstances can change. One day you are earning only 2,000 a month. And who knows, in the next 10 years, you'll be earning maybe 50,000 a month. Your needs, your wants would have changed. And so whatever you wanted 10 years ago, now you don't want. So the external analysis can reveal a lot of things in that external environment. The important thing is that it can reveal opportunities for organizations, and it can also reveal threats that those organizations must avoid. Very important. I'm on slide 10. So as I was saying, changes in the external environment can translate to changes in good fortune for organization or bad fortune for organization. But you need to find out. You, the organization, you need to find out. Because the external forces can affect the types of products, the service that you have to produce and offer your customers. It can affect the nature of your positioning, how you position yourself, whether you want to position yourself as a cost leader or you want to position yourself as being different from your competitors, or you want to position yourself by segmenting the market. And I'm talking about market segmentation. Whichever you want to do, the choice is yours. But the choice must be a choice that will lead you to success. The external forces can influence an organization indirectly. Indirectly, it's not direct, but its impact is huge. As I've said, you have no control. That business, you have no control of the external force. So identifying and evaluating the external opportunities and threats can enable you to form and reform your mission, your vision, your strategies, in your policies, so that you can achieve your goal as an organization. I'm on slide number 11. So now I want us to look at PESO. PESO, I said, is a tool that we can use to analyze the external environment. Yes, let's look at the political aspect of it. Let me try and move a little bit. The political aspect. And the political aspect is connected to the governmental aspect. Because whenever, for instance, when NDC lost the election and MPP came in, there was a political change. And that political change led to governmental change. The change in political situation can lead to a change in the governmental situation. So now we have MPP and NDC is also fighting to come back. And so change of government can lead to change in policies. Those policies can affect businesses. So that's why some companies, when MPP is coming to power, they don't like. Some companies too, when NDC is coming to power, they don't like. Because to them, there are certain policies that NDC will bring that they like, or there are some certain policies that MPP will bring that they like. That is the reason. Particularly when it comes to the monetary policies and fiscal policies. Taxation, for example. Taxation levels are considered fiscal policies. When MPP came to power, now we all know that tax levels have gone up. Okay, they've gone up. And now we are paying more taxes compared to the 5 years ago. Okay, but they will also argue that they are using those tax rates, increments, to some changes in the economy. So every party, and for that matter, every government have their own policies that can be a threat. You as an organization, it can also be an opportunity. It's up to you to do the personal analysis. Find out the change in government, how it's going to impact on you, so that you'll be prepared for the future. Okay. Now, can you tell me what is the corporate rate now? Because I'm talking about corporate tax rate. What is it now? How much is it now?
12%.
25%.
It's not true. It's more than 12%. I'm not talking about treasury bill.
25%. 25%.
Exactly.
5%.
Exactly.
25%. The corporate
25%.
Your tax is 25%.
So if you make a profit of 1,000 cedis your financial year, 250 cedis will go to government in that financial year. Okay. But NDC may come and they may decide to reduce it to 23%. Who knows? Or they may decide to increase it to 27%. Who knows? So always you need to find out what that change in government is going to bring for you, whether an opportunity or whether a threat, so that you'll be able to prepare yourself. You don't want surprises. You don't want surprises. But those surprises damage you. Okay, let's look at the economic. There is a connection between the political and economic, because political parties come into power with the view or idea of making changes to the economy. So normally when they come, they make changes to the interest rate, the exchange rate, a whole lot of things. Okay, so right now, what is the interest rate? If you go and borrow money from the bank right now, how much will you pay? Say you go and borrow 10,000. How much interest would you pay a typical year?
12.5.
Are you sure? That's not true. That is the Bank of Ghana rate, but the rate that you get from the banks is more than that.
It's 25%.
So now it's 16.
Sorry?
Say access is 22%.
So clearly, the 12.5% that you are talking is a Bank of Ghana rate. When Bank of Ghana comes to the rate, the banks also put a little bit on top for their own profit making. That's how they made their profit. So now the rate is between 20%. Some banks is even as high as 30%.
30%, yes.
Yes.
Some banks are 30%, especially
Yes.
the rural banks. Yeah.
Exactly. So it is ranging between 20% to 30%. Can you imagine? So if you are a business, you should be able to make some prediction that in the next year, how much is the interest rate going to be? Because I may need to go to the banks and borrow money. If I go to that bank and borrow that amount of money, a certain amount of money with that amount of rate, am I going to survive, or I'll be able to float? I'll be able to, I will not be able to survive. So you should be able to make some predictions for the future, even though I'm not saying that those predictions will be exact. But then when you are making those predictions, you are planning for the future. And part of that planning is for you to analyze the economic situation in the coming year. You are just being prepared. That's all. Okay. So these are some of the issues that organizations face. The third part, the sociocultural, which is the S bit. You and I, our needs change. As I've said, our tastes change. So companies should be able to analyze the environment and find out whether the products that they are producing now, in a year's time, customers will still want it. Or in a month's time, customers will still want it. And those who were buying the product, are they living in the same place or they moved on because now they are rich? Have they moved to the rich places in Accra or they are still in the same place so that you'll be able to target them? I'm talking about whether or not you become rich. I'm talking about demographic. You see, the demographic factors are factors that are to do with people who live in a locality. Our age, our gender, our income levels, our taste, our buying behavior, all these can be part of that demographic. So if we know all these factors, then we can target certain customers with regards to our products. Because there are some products only the young people will buy. So you need to find out whether in your area, a lot of young people live there. If they don't live there, you may have to have a branch in a location where there are a lot of young people so that you can sell your product to the young people. All these are part of the analysis and for that matter, part of the strategy formulation. Let's go to the next one, technology. If there was a time you were producing products manually, time has come for you to produce your products using technology. Because of technological advancement, the use and ease of access with regards to what we produce and how we get to the product to the customer has changed. It has also changed the life cycle of products. There was a time you produce a product, the next 10 years, customers will want the same product. Now, you produce a product today, if you are not lucky, in a year's time, customers don't want that product anymore. Moved on. Look at Apple. Apple have used this, the advantage. You know, customers, when they get their Apple 25, they don't want to wait another 2 years before they bring out Apple 26. 6 months, Apple 26 is ready. That is why Apple is where they are now. Technology, and for that matter, its use and ease of access have altered the life cycle of products, has increased the speed of distribution with regards to products, and it has created new products and services, and it has also eased limitations of geographic market. That means because of technology, there are no more boundaries. You can stay in Abeka or you can stay in Malam, produce your product. Somebody, you can put them online. Somebody can buy online, send your money to you. You don't have to send the product there physically yourself. You will come for it. So I'm talking about e-business, e-commerce, opening the floodgates for you to become boundaryless organizations. You don't have any boundaries now. You can be in Ghana, sell your products to people in the UK, in the US. Let's also talk about the legal aspect. The legal aspect of PESO is also connected to the political. Let's consider when MPP came to power, they enacted some laws. And one of the first laws that they enacted was that no more galamsey. So let's assume that your business was in the galamsey business. And MPP came in with some changes in the law. Now you don't have a business anymore. So legal changes can lead to opportunities for some businesses. It can also become a threat for some businesses. And in fact, it can collapse some businesses. The ecological changes, I'm talking about green issues, pollution. If you are in a business whereby you are causing a lot of pollution to the environment, be careful. Now, customers are becoming more and more aware of the green issues. Customers don't want to buy from companies who are polluting the world or who are polluting their environment. They are beginning to run away from these companies to be aware of it. So I'm saying that if you are an organization who are involved in these ecological issues, begin to diversify, begin to find a new way of producing your products. Because even in Ghana, we are becoming more and more aware of these issues. Even though we have got a long way to go. That is how we can use the PESO to analyze the external environment. You analyze the political aspects of the environment, you analyze the economic aspect of it. All these, some of the factors I mentioned, the exchange rate, interest rate, inflation, they are all connected. Higher inflation normally leads to higher exchange rate. Okay, and higher exchange rate normally leads to higher inflation. Of course, when there's higher inflation, it leads to an increase in the buying of goods and services. The exchange rate, we are talking about the buying of money, which has the same effect, the buying of money. Okay. If you consider buying of money, money is a product for that matter. So inflation, interest rate, and exchange rate, they are all connected. They are all connected. They are also connected to some level, disposable income. Okay. When inflation is high and interest rate is high, exchange rate is high, it can lead to less disposable income. Okay. If we say disposable income, we are talking about the income that is available for us to spend on the goods and services when we are paid. Okay. The money that is available for us to dispose of. All right. Any question on PESO? Any question on PESO?
No,
Any
sir.
question on PESO? Yes. I'm listening to your question.
So in a nutshell, the PESO or the macroeconomic, the organizations have basically nothing to do about it. They have to just run with it and manage the impact that they get.
Yeah, you analyze it. You see, yes, you cannot influence it so much. See, in politics, we have people they lobby. So companies sometimes can employ people to lobby for them so that the changes by government cannot have an impact on them. So that's why we tend to do, there are some people who lobby for companies it's very popular in the developed world. And I'm sure it is also popular in Ghana. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, you cannot, your influence on the external environment is limited. If not, it's non-existent. And assuming it is existent, it is limited. That's the point I'm making. So the only way you can prevail is to involve in planning or to be involved in the formulating of your strategies. To be involved in those formulation of strategies, you have to be involved in an analysis of the external environment. And to be involved in the analysis of the external environment, you can use PESO to do that analysis. Because if you don't do it, you are in trouble. But at least if you do it, you can be a little bit prepared for the future. That's all. Even though Mainsberg have told us there is the fallacy of what? Prediction. Do you remember that organizations cannot totally predict the future? But if you don't do it, you are even more in trouble. So why don't you do it? Do it so that at least you'll be prepared a little bit rather than being unprepared. So you are right, what you said. Companies cannot control the external environment. But that doesn't mean that you cannot be involved in the analysis of that external environment. You have to analyze it and find out what it is bringing the near week, the near year, the near future. so that you'll be prepared for that future. And as I've always told you, the future belongs to those who are involved in planning. Why? Because at least you'll be a little bit prepared for the future. Why are some of you in education? Why are you in CTU doing a degree? Because you are preparing yourself for that bloody future which is coming. Because if you don't have a degree in the next 5 years, your future will be bleak. You'll be on the same salary, whilst other people will be on higher salaries. So you are just preparing yourself. It doesn't mean that the future is going to be so bright. Nobody can tell the future. At least you are better prepared for those rather than those who are not doing their degrees at all. So it's the same thing. Organizations get prepared. Individuals also get prepared. But in we talking about organizations, all that we are saying is that there are certain tools that people have developed that as a business we can use to analyze that environment. And one of them is PESEL. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right. Any other question? Any other question on the PESEL? All right. I'm not going to give you a break because some of you, the moment I give you a break, you'll be going to your kitchen preparing fufu, rice.
Oh, sir, no, will not do that.
Sir, it's true.
It is true.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's true. Some of you have gotten some of you, even as we are talking right now, looking at, the external environment, some of you are cooking. So you leave, you sit down 1 minute, you go to the kitchen 1 minute.
Some are eating white chicken.
Some are doing what?
Eating white chicken.
Some are eating white chicken. I know that. Bloody, I know. You don't have to tell me, I know. No. Jana, unfortunately, they are eating that bloody wache, and I cannot see them eating that wache. As much as I like that bloody wache as well. All right, the second tool that I want us to look at is toes. And it is coming from SWOT. So those of you who are aware of SWOT, is the same thing, except that now we focus more on the TO rather than the SW. Okay, so if you look at it from SW, then you can look at it from the right-hand side, it is SWOT. If you look at it from the left-hand side, it is toes.
So, question.
Sorry? Okay.
Question.
Huh?
Please, I wanted to know the main reason why we are taking it from back to front. We know it's what now is toes. Is there a reason for the?
There's a reason. I even just said it. Now the emphasis is on the threats and opportunities, because those are the ones that you cannot control.
Yes, sir.
You cannot control T and O, but you can, as an organization, you can control your W and S. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
right.
Sir.
Okay. So OS is a strategic formulation tool, which obviously will lead you identifying your threats and opportunities and strengths and weaknesses. But please, guys, bear in mind, we are focusing on the threats and opportunities because we are looking at our external environment. The threats and opportunities are factors that lie within the external environment. The strengths and weaknesses, they lie internally. But we are not interested in the strengths and weaknesses today. However, we'll be interested maybe next week. Maybe next week. Okay. So note what that means. Pose. Pose is a tool that we can use to analyze the external environment, and obviously it will help us to identify the threats and opportunities, particularly if you are interested in the external environment. So we are saying that TOES is an important tool that we can use to formulate our strategies. And TOES is based on the assumption that an effective strategy is derived from sound fit or match between a firm's internal resources, which will bring out the strengths, or which will help to identify its strengths and weaknesses, and that particular business's external environment, which will help the company identify the threats and opportunities in that particular external environment. So TOES is defined as threats, opportunities, weaknesses, and strengths. But the question is, what is a threat? A threat is any factor or any force or any characteristics of the external environment that may prevent an organization from achieving its strategic goals. So we can also say that a threat is, or they are, if it's plural, if you say threats, then they are major unfavorable situation in the firm's external environment. Threats are major unfavorable situations in the firm's external environment. Now the question is, what is an opportunity? Opportunities are factors or situations or forces or characteristics that lie within the external environment and have the potential to help an organization achieve or even exceed its strategic goals. So similarly, we can say that opportunities are major favorable factors in the firm's external environment. Now you can see that for the weaknesses and strengths, I've highlighted them in blue, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it?
Yes,
Because
Sir,
for today,
it is 1:30.
yeah, for today, we are not interested in the weaknesses, the strengths. However, I will just briefly mention them. It goes, there are internal factors or characteristics that might inhibit or restrict an organization from achieving a goal. So therefore, it is a limitation or a deficiency in one or more resources, be it tangible, be it intangible resources that reside within the organization. And a strength is a positive internal characteristic or capability or resource that an organization can exploit so that it can be able to achieve its goals. So a resource is an advantage as opposed to a weakness. Weakness is a disadvantage. Okay, so you can look at them that way. Let me give you a typical example. Let's focus on the threats and opportunities. Okay, high interest rate can be a threat to a particular business, but low interest rate can be an opportunity to that particular business. So you can look at those factors. When it is positive, it can be an opportunity. When it is negative, it can be a threat. Okay. Remember what I said. Some businesses, MPP, an opportunity for them. Some businesses, NDC, it brings opportunities for them. So it depends on where your that one is a bit sometimes human beings, we have our own, particularly in Ghana, we have our own parties, whether the party is going to be a threat and opportunity. So far as we belong to that party, we look at it as an opportunity. But that's not strictly true. I want to look at it from the perspective that what that party is bringing. If that party comes in, and for that matter, that government comes in, the interest rate is low, exchange rate is low, inflation is low, then you can look at it in a positive way and say, okay, now these are opportunities for my business, not just for the sake of a party. Okay, so we need to begin to look at it, do the analysis. I'm talking about do the external analysis objectively, because if you do the analysis and you don't do it objectively, it may impact negatively on your business. That is all I want to say there. All right. So know some of the threats and opportunities. Another typical threat with regard to external environment will be that's reaching 30%. So businesses cannot cope. But if corporate tax comes down to maybe 15%, for companies will be prepared, they'll be, if they are hiding now, if they are in the informal sector, they will come to the formal sector. High corporate tax can lead to a lot of businesses hiding. And if they are hiding, I mean, they don't want to be part of the formal sector. If you are part of the formal sector, that means you pay your taxes and you pay them on time. In Ghana, a lot of businesses are hiding, and so they are in the informal sector. We call it the black economy. So government is not getting much tax from them. Meanwhile, government needs the money used to develop the nation, be it NDC government or NPP government. So you can look at it both ways, depending on the factor. Any factor can be a negative, can also be a positive. But you have to analyze that environment and analyze it objectively. Don't be biased in your thinking. Be biased in your thinking. All right, a question. We are moving on from tolls. So a question.
Yeah, sir.
Question on tolls.
One question on tolls. Sir, maybe a question is being put in an exams that issue. What are the tools that you need to scan the external environment, and then you make mention of the pestle and then the tool. So if you are explaining the tool, that means that you are going to focus on only the first two, the opportunities and the threats, and then leave out the strength and then the weakness.
Oh yes, because if the question is laying emphasis on the external environment.
Okay.
Okay. The question, the case focuses or emphasizes on the environment and didn't state a particular environment, then you have to analyze both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
So what I want to add is that those can be used to analyze the industrial environment, for that matter, the competing environment. Because when you are see, remember when we're looking at that diagram, do you remember the 2A is the task environment or the operating environment. The 2B is what? The industrial environment. If you still remember. The diagram that I displayed.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
and the 2C,
yes,
the 2C is the remote environment. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, the point I'm trying to make is that the tools as a tool can be used to analyze what? The industry environment. Because that environment is where you find where your industry is, where your competitors are. You can also use the tools to analyze the operating environment, because the operating environment and industrial environment, there will be a lot of threats and opportunities. Your competitor is a threat to you. And so if there are many competitors in your industry, they are a threat to you. However, if all the competitors are dying, or actually they are collapsing, then it becomes an opportunity for you. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Like the other day, I was using the example. Those of you who have a lot of rivals. Rivals are a threat to you because if you don't do the right thing, the rival will take the bloody girl or the bloody boy.
Take over.
The same thing. Bloody is the same thing we are talking about. Organizations are facing the same problems that we as human beings, as individuals, we are facing in our lives. Okay. Unless you are bloody sleeping, you have a rival. Bloody hell. Bloody hell. All right. Let's move on. So as I've said, no, I'm not going to give you a break. Maybe we'll finish a bit early. Okay, what's the time now? The time is, okay.
12:38.
Okay.
12:38.
All right. So around, all right. So around 1 p.m., maybe 1:15, I will let you go. Okay? I'll let you go. So we finish a bit early rather than give you a break. Because I don't want to give you a break and then your network will go.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Now, let's go back and let me explain something. Let's go back to the diagram. There's something that I should have explained. I didn't. I think it's important that I explain it because I don't want you to yeah. Now, we are back again. Go. You are looking at slide number 8, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen that 2A to bracket put global and domestic? Have you seen that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
2B2 to bracket global and domestic. Then 2C into bracket as well. So all of them are in brackets, global and domestic, global and domestic, global and domestic. The reason why I put them into brackets is this. Whether we are talking about the operating environment, the industrial environment, or the remote environment, we are talking about domestic environment and we are talking about global environment. What do I mean by that? The question is, what do I mean by this? And I know somebody is ready to ask me that question. What I mean by this is this. Whether you are using, let's say, a table or an alcoholic beverage, now Beka is where your plant is located. Let's assume for 1 minute. That Beka, for that matter, all businesses in Accra, even in Ghana, that are also producing a similar product, be it a table or being alcoholic beverage. They are all operating in a domestic market. The moment we are talking about domestic market, we are talking about markets, that is your market, your customers, your competitor, all of them in Abeka. Also in Accra, Abeka is in Accra, Accra is in Ghana. So your domestic market is not only Abeka, it's also Accra, it's also the whole Ghana. So you can expand domestic market from that small environment in which you are operating. The market goes beyond where you are operating. Your domestic market, the name implies, Ghana is your domestic market. However, even if you are operating or you are producing from Abeka, you are also operating in a global market because you may be producing your good or services in Abeka. You may have a competitor in Nigeria. You may have a competitor in UK. You may have a competitor in D'Ivoire. You may have a competitor in Congo. So begin to think that even when you are operating in a small locality, not only you are operating in the domestic manner, for that matter, domestic environment, you are also operating in a global market. But now boundaries have become been lowered. So understand that the operating market, the industry market, the remote market, they are all part of the domestic market, the global market. I had to emphasize that because I didn't want you to not understand why I put the global and the domestic. into brackets. So all businesses have domestic competitors, they have global competitors as well. So therefore, you have a rival, whether you are operating in a small place in Abeka or in Malam or in East Legon. You may not know all your rivals, you may not know all your competitors, but they are there. Okay. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's come back where we are. So the tools, the second tool that we spoke about, the tools, put it into a diagram form. And with particular reference on the opportunities, the threats, and the opportunities and the threats, they are on the vertical. They are on the vertical. Maybe let me do some annotation. They are on the vertical. So I'm talking about that, and I'm talking about that. That is where we are focusing on. Okay. So we are focusing on. So the time is coming when maybe in the next 3-4 weeks, we will be able to use the TOES tool or the TOES technique to formulate even grand strategies. But because we have not dealt with grand strategies, I don't want to spend so much time here. But all that I'm saying is that turn around the grand strategy. Defensive is part of grand strategy. Aggressive strategy is part of grand strategy. And diversification is part of strategy. When it gets there, I will explain how we'll be able to use tools. But we need to understand what we mean by turnaround strategy, aggressive strategy, defensive strategy, diversification strategy. Okay, so in the meantime, don't worry so much about this diagram. We need to understand the internal environment. Okay, and once we understand the internal environment, and obviously now we understand the external environment, we'll be able to bring the two together. We'll use this matrix, it's a matrix. We use it to formulate strategies depending on our internal strengths and weaknesses which are on the horizontal, and depending on the opportunities and threats that we find in the external environment, we'll be able to formulate strategies that will make our organization successful. So in the meantime, that is what I'm going to say about what is in slide 14. Trust me, when we get there, I'll make sure you understand it. So let's move on. Let me get rid of this stuff. All right, so I'm moving to slide number 15. I'm 15 now. Let me get rid of. Any question? Any question? All right, now we are on FA. Initially, I remember telling you FA refers to what? Who can tell me? FA refers to what? Yes.
External factor evaluation.
Exactly.
External factor evaluation.
Okay. Somebody's network is struggling. Yeah. And as the name implies, external factor evaluation is a tool. External factor evaluation matrix is also a tool that we can use to analyze the competitive. Please. The competitive environment. Once we are talking about competitive environment, we are talking about the industry in which you are operating. For instance, Belacqua is operating in the water industry, the bottled water industry, as much as the sachet water industry. Vortec is operating in the sachet water industry as well as the bottled water industry. This industry is a competitive industry, for that matter, competitive environment. Okay, so you can use FA. So note, you can use TOES to analyze the competitive environment. You can also use FA. It's always better to use more than one tool when you are doing the external environmental analysis. Don't use only TOES. Don't use only FA. Use a combination of tools. It will give you a better picture of the future. All right. So FA, for that matter, external factor evaluation matrix, it's also a tool that can help organizations formulate their strategies in their industry. Okay. But these tools can be accompanied by good intuitive judgment. Already we know. Strategy formulation is it's not just about planning, it's also about using your intuition. So you can use your inner deep self, what it's telling you for the future. Some business can predict, oh, you think MPP is coming to power. So if MPP is coming to power, the strategy that they are going to formulate will be different from if NDC is coming to power. And lo and behold, you guys there, the intention is right. Okay, and they get it right, and maybe MPP is in power or NDC in power or whatever they are looking for. Okay. So multinational firms especially need a systematic and effective external analytical tool so that they will be able to analyze the external environment, bearing in mind that that external environment is not only a domestic environment, but that environment that goes beyond boundaries. And so we are talking about your competitors and others who are operating in other countries. So the FA matrix, as I've already said, can be considered as a component of the puzzle of the tools. So you can use all of them. You can use a puzzle, then after that you use the tools, then after that you use the whole. You use the what? FA. You can, and it will give you a better picture, as I've said. It will give you detailed information about what you are looking for. All right, so let me go to slide 16. So we are still on the FA matrix. External factor evaluation matrix will allow an organization to summarize and evaluate the factors that exist in the external environment. Okay, note, to help you to analyze and evaluate the factors that exist in the external environment, be it the person factors or the tools factors. Right. There are 5 steps. If you want to use FA, there are 5 steps you have to go through. Okay. The first, everybody should pay attention. It can be a bit tricky, but it's also very easy to do. First, if you want to use FA, know those external factors that you want to evaluate. And once you know them, list all those key factors. You see, in that external environment, there are so many factors, but you need to focus on the key ones that can be a threat and that can be an advantage. So list all the key external factors. For the sake of this exercise, for this learning, normally you list 10 to 20. So for the sake of a typical business, you list 10 to 20 external factors. Okay. And those 10 to 20 will be a combination of opportunities and threats. Maybe assuming you want to focus on 10 external factors, and 5 of them can be opportunities and 5 can be threats. So you have to prepare a list of all external factors which will affect your matrix, and for that matter, opportunities and threats. When you are doing the FA, I want you to list opportunities first, followed by threats. I repeat, list your opportunities first, followed by threats. Be as specific as possible. Be clear about the factor. Now, very important point, I've highlighted in blue. Opportunities often receive higher weight. I'm going to explain what we mean by weight very soon. Opportunities often receive higher weight than threats. But if you think threat is also can damage your company and it's powerful, you can give higher weights to threat as well. Okay. So I'm saying that threats can also receive higher weights if you think, if you the strategies, you the organization, if you think threats are threatening, you are threatening your business. Okay. The question is, what is a weight? Weights are industry based, and a weight indicates the relative importance of a factor, a firm. Again, I repeat, weight depends on the industry. So when you are doing the FA, all the weights that you will be, of course, I'm talking about 0 to 1, because how you are able to determine whether weight will be 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, or 0.9, they will be industry based. Another thing that I want to say is that the weight should not be less than 0 and more than 1. So a weight should be between 0 and 1. So once you know your factors, whether a threat or opportunity, you need to assign weight. And the weight should not be more than 1 and less than 0. And so I'm saying that a weight is a decimal. It's a decimal. That means it can be, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.1, 0.5, 0.7, 0.7.5. It can be any decimal, but it cannot be more than 1. It cannot be less than 0. But if a weight is 0, there's no point in including it, because then it has no weight. But if a weight is 0.1, you have to include it. 0.9, you have to include it. So that's why I'm saying a weight should be between 0 and 1, but no more than 1 and not less than 0. If it's equal to 0, then that means it has no weight, so don't include it. Remember what I said. Weight indicates the relative importance of a particular factor for your company to be successful in that industry. So assuming, let's say, the economy. The economy is a particular factor for all of you operating in a particular industry, then that can be considered a weight. And that weight cannot be, when you are assigning values, it cannot be more than 1, less than 0. Don't worry, I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to do an example so that you understand it. First, we have to go through the formalities, so that when I explain through how you do it, it will be easier. Now, once you have done your weights, which is the second point, assign your weight to your factors, okay? And assign to each factor a weight that ranges from 0, not important, to 1. But remember to have said, if it's 0.0, then there's no point in including it because it's not important. If 0.1, then it's got some relevance, it's got some importance. So the higher the weight, the higher the importance of that factor to your FA. Okay, when you have done that, sum all your weights. And when you sum all your weights, it should never be more than 1. It should never be more than 1. And I'm going to explain later when I show you the diagram. Now you have to arrange them according to their weight as to which factor is most important. So the ones with heavy weight, they come on top, and the ones with lesser weight, they come below. Bear in mind that you first have to come up with your opportunities and then your threats. And then you assign your weights. Your weight should not be more than 1. And okay, let me move on to point 3. Point 3. appropriate weight can be determined by comparing what is success with what has been unsuccessful. And I'm talking about your competitors. Okay. So when you look at your industry, you should be able to know the factors that are so important to your industry, and you focus on it. Bear in mind that if you are doing industry analysis, not internal analysis. It's an external industry analysis. I'm talking about external analysis. Right. So the third point, assign rating. Remember, once you have listed your key factors to assign weights. Once you have finished assigning weights, you assign rating. Ratings are firm-based. Remember, weights are industry-based. Ratings are firm-based. Ratings refer to how well the strategies that you have can respond to these factors. How well the firms, I'm talking about your company strategies, can respond to the factors you have listed. Once you have listed your factors, you have assigned your weights, you have assigned your ratings, you multiply each weight by its rating, and it will give you a weighted score. Once you have the weighted score, sum the weighted scores, opportunities and threats. If when you did the weighted score, you have around 4, it is the highest. So your weighted score cannot be more than 4, and it cannot be less than 1. So it ranges, your weighted score will range between 1 and 4. 4 is the highest. If when you did the weighted score, you had around 4, then that means your company is responding very well to all the threats that are in the external environment, and you are also taking advantage of the opportunities that are in that external environment. If your weighted score is close to 1, that means your company is not taking, in fact, your company is facing a lot of threats and also facing a lot of problems. And if they don't do anything about it, you'll begin to face a lot of problems. So you prefer that your weighted score is around 4. If it's around 2.5, it's average. That means you are doing enough to avoid the threats and capitalize on some of the opportunities. But you always want your weighted score to be around 4. Now, let's see how we can prepare IFE matrix. And this is what I've prepared. And let's go through this, then after that, I will let you go. And after that, I will let you go because I'm bombarding you with too much. So an example of IFE that I have prepared. Now, as I've said, for the sake of space, we chose only 6 factors instead of the minimum 10. In practice, it has to be minimum 10, maximum 20. But because of space, I chose only 6. That means 3 opportunities and 3 threats. So 1, you list all your key external factors. And so I listed opportunities. Increased online marketing for my company. Okay, if I increase online marketing, it will be an opportunity for me. Ghana is also trying to digitalize the economy. It is part of the external environment because government is leading the project. It is not me. Okay, now that is also what? External. So in that industry, increased online marketing will help, digitalization will help, high economic growth will also help because people will have a lot more disposable income, so they can buy their products. Now, that is the opportunities. Let's look at the threats. Lockdown by government due to COVID-19, and it was a threat to a lot of businesses in that industry. In my industry, assuming I have a company in that industry, So lockdown was a threat. Internet scam is a threat. Government taxing companies who are selling online is also a threat. So you can see that all these are my external factors. Okay. The only thing, if you look at the opportunities, increased online marketing, even though it's an opportunity, it's not the greatest opportunity. The two greatest opportunities are what? Digitalization of the economy and high economic growth. So 0.1, I should have brought it down. So it should have been the factor 3. But it doesn't matter. That one, if you do like that, I won't penalize you. Now you have the opportunities, the threats on the left. Note, opportunities first, threats second. Remember I said the weight are industry based. So that's why I put IB into brackets. Industry based. The weight should never be less than 0 and more than 1. So assuming you have 10 opportunities, you can assign 0.1, 0.1, 0.005, 0.0. So combination of your opportunities and threats should be 1. There is no way when you add all your weights, you will get more than 1. If you do it and you do it like that, you are wrong. Your FA is wrong. So if you look at, in my case, the 3 factors that are opportunities, I gave them 0.5, meaning increased online marketing in that industry as an opportunity, 0.1. Digitalization of the economy, 0.2. High economic growth, 0.2. And if I add all of them, it's 0.5. But you don't add them, you leave them like that. And you come to the threats. Lockdown by government due to COVID-19 was a huge threat to the industry and for that matter, the businesses in that industry, 0.2. Internet scam in Ghana is a threat to businesses, 0.2. And government taxing companies online, 0.1. When you add all of them, it gives you what? 1.0. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. I hope you are following.
Yes,
Yes, we are following.
Okay.
Yes,
Follow because I may give you an assignment to do very soon.
Okay.
So you see, I've circled it. When you add all your opportunities and threats with regards to the weight, it should never be less than 1 or more than 1. Because already we have emphasized your weight should be fraction. They should be fractions. So let's assume that I wanted digitalization to be, let's say I wanted it to be 1, let's say 1, 0.1, let's say 0.1. Okay, instead of 0.2. Then what I may do is that if I think digitalization of the economy is not so important, then I could have gone on to give high economic growth as 0.3. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So it is up to you. You do the strategies. You will have to determine which factor is so important to you, which factor is not important. But in my case, I think digitalization of the economy is very important, so 0.2. And high economic growth is also important, 0.2. Increase online marketing in that industry is not so important because in Ghana, people always want to buy face to face. They want to come to you and buy. So it's not so much important to my profitability. So I did it 0.1. Okay. Now, once you have finished with your weight, you go to your rating. Remember what I said. Ratings can never be more than 4, and it can never be less than 1, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it, guys?
yes, sir.
And if you think a factor is more important, you give higher rating. If you think a factor is less important, you give lower rating. And ratings are company based, and for that matter, firm based. So that's why I put FB into bracket. They depend on the firm. Weighting is dependent on the what? On the industry. But rating depends on the firm itself. So I will look at my company and I look at, okay, is increased online marketing important to me? Not so much. So free. Digitalization of the economy, is it important to me and my company? Yes, okay, not so much. Free. A high economic growth, very important. So I allocated 4. The highest. Note, 4 is the highest. And I came to the threats. Lockdown by government. Was it important? Yes. The lockdown was about 3 weeks. Yeah, it was, it nearly collapsed my business, but I will survive. So I give rating 2. Internet scam. Internet scam is becoming serious. So people who want to buy my products by Momo have to be careful so that they don't hack my important brain. Government taxing companies online. If I want to go online, I'll be in trouble. This may eat into my profit. I think it's important to me. So highest rating 4. So now I've done my factors, I've done my weight, I've done my rating. 4 point is what? To multiply your weight by your rating. So 0.1 times 3 gives us what? 0.3. Is that okay? Guys? Guys?
Yes, sir.
All right. 0.2 times 3, 0.6. 0.2 times 4, 0.8. And you go to the frets, the same. 0.2 times 2, 0.4. Then 0.2 times 3, 0.6. And 0.1. Hey, somebody.
The last one is your own is wrong. It's 0.4.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
so
sir.
It's true. It's 0.4. You are right.
Yes, sir.
Yes. That means you are following. Excellent. I am proud of you guys.
Yeah, all of us are
You are following. Yeah. You are following.
So, I guess
So-
in the future, let's continue online.
Sorry? Sorry?
I said, as you are impressed like that, in the future, let's continue online.
Bloody hell. You are bloody crazy, bloody boy. Some bloody, they want to stay in their home. They don't want to go anywhere.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But you see, you don't have
Second
to.
motion,
So,
second motion.
So, even I'm coming, even though online may be an opportunity for you, for some people where they are, online is a threat to their education. So we need to balance it. We don't have to be selfish. For all you know, some people couldn't even log on today because of the network issue. Okay, so
Sir,
you always have to be balancing
then
your view. Yes, yes, I'm listening.
Let's put it into a boat.
No, you don't
Let's
have to
see.
vote. Listen, bloody.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Who said let's put it into a vote? Let me hear you. Your name. What's your name? What's your name? Bloody, just mention your name. That's all. I want to say, sorry. You are who?
Ransford, please.
Okay, Ransford. Ransford. Yeah, you know, in this organization, and for that matter, the organization of level 400 weekend, I'm the leader and I'm make the decisions. You don't make the decision. Does that make sense? So I will decide when to do face-to-face and when to do online. And when I'm making those decisions, I'm making it for the sake of everybody, not for the sake of you. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Gladly, I'm glad that you understand that.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
so let's move on. Let's move on. So, Fred, government tax on online purchases for 0.1 times 4, 0.4. All right. So now let's go another day. So 0.3 plus 0.6 plus 0.8 plus 0.4 plus 0.8. Yes, add them and then give me the
3.1, sir.
Exactly. So our 3.5 becomes 3.1. 3.1. So 3.1. Now, 3.1 is very close to 4, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So in your conclusion, because you make a conclusion based on not on the weighted score, but on the total weighted score, because total weighted score is equal to the sum of the weighted scores. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So you conclude based on the total weighted score. And because the total weighted score of this AFA is 3.1, you conclude that the company in question is... What is going on over there? Is your bloody boyfriend waiting over there or bloody? Bloody has gone quiet. Because look at somebody was running over there. All right, let's focus. So once the 3.1 is close to 4, even though it's not perfect, because if you are around 3.94, then that means you are highly effective and avoiding all the threats and taking advantage or capitalizing on the opportunities and strategizing in a way that the future is bright. But all the same, because it's 3.1 and close to 4, you can conclude that this company in question is avoiding majority of the threats and capitalizing on the opportunities that are in the external environment. And so this company is in a good position, or a very strong position, okay, to survive and continue to produce for the customers. And for that matter, more or less, you are not drifting. You are doing exactly what you are going, or should I say, because you are going to use it to predict the future or formulate your strategies, is going to put you in a better future. Okay. Now, assuming we did this and the weighted score was around 1.5, then we can say that the future for that company will not be bright. That means there are a lot of threats in the external environment. This company is not avoiding them. At the same time, the opportunities that are available, this company is not taking advantage. So when you do IFE, to give you a certain picture, whether or not you are doing the right thing with regards to the opportunities, the threats that exist in the external environment. As I said, maybe today I'm not going to worry you, but I think maybe next week I'll give you a question to go solve. I'll give you some work to do to enhance your understanding of FA. Any question on FA? Any question on FA?
Sir, please, my name is Samson.
Okay, Samson.
With the industry and then the firm-based rating, in a question, will it be given to you or you'll be asked to provide it yourself?
No, I won't give it to you. I can ask you to identify 10 external factors. Okay, and once I say 10 external factors, and prepare a matrix based on them. Okay, in a particular industry. Now, on that question,
if
yes, go on.
Okay, so if the opportunities is like 5 and then the threat is also 5,
yes,
both additions should be 1.
Exactly. It doesn't matter even if the opportunities are 7 and the threats are 3. When you add all the weights, it should be 1. Because you are going to be assigning decimals. So it's more or less, you have to be very smart in the way you do it. If you add all of them, there will be more than 1, then reduce the decimal. So you can do some of them 0.05, 0.00. So you can make them in such a way that they become 1. Your weight can never be more than 1. regardless of the number of key factors. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Sir. So,
yes.
Then it means that in a given exam, or if we are to answer a question on it, none of us will get similar either weight or rating.
Yes, exactly. You should never get the same. You see, exactly, because your weight, please, your weight that you be chosen, regards to the decimals, will be different from each other.
Okay.
Your ratings, even though it will be between 1 to 4, you may be choosing different ratings for different factors. So you will end up not having the same answer. The moment your factors are the same, your weights are the same, your ratings are the same, then you end up having the same weighted score, and that will be copying. You're copying from each other. I repeat, if your external factors are the same, and and for that matter, your opportunities are the same, your threats are the same, your weights are the same, your ratings are the same, will lead to your weighted score being the same. So therefore, your total weighted score will be same. It will indicate that you copied from each other. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So that is why we do not expect two companies to do their FAs. The factors will be the same, the weight will be the same, the rate will be the same, because every company is unique. Every company is unique. Even though companies operating. Who is that? Can you mute? Who is that? Let me say who. You see, guys, you see the disadvantages or the threats of doing online. You see the disadvantages of doing online. Somebody is somewhere, I don't know whether in a church or in a party, I don't know. Okay, so what I was saying is that even though two companies may be operating the same industry, but there's no way their AFA metrics will be the same, because every company is unique. Any other question? Yes, any other question before we go?
Yeah, sir, my question is not on the AFA, but it's a general question. It's a general question. Like the external threats, some you will not know, like some like economic recession. It can happen at a go. How are you going to do that one? Where are you going to put it?
Yeah, you see.
Are you going to allocate?
Yeah, it's a prediction. You see, that is why as a strategist or as a business, you should know something about strategies. And now, if you don't, you see, predicting the future means you have to have some idea about the past. If you don't know where you are coming from, you may never know where you are going. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you have some information already. You have some information as to the past, and so you can use it to do some prediction of the future. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
make sure that you are not so far detached or so far deviated from the reality. Because assuming right now, let's say inflation is, well, according to the government Ghana Statistical Services, inflation is bordering around 10, 11, 12%. Okay, you can go back and look at inflation rates in the past 4 years. They can give you a certain clue. So based on that, you'll be able to come up with a figure. Let's say because of COVID and other factors that has impacted on the economy, you can predict that maybe inflation in the next year, 2 years, can be around 15%. Okay, it may be 14, 15%. Because now everything, because of the increment in fuel, everything keeps going up and up. And we expect inflation to go up.
Yes.
If you do your analysis, and for that matter, your formulation and the analysis of the environment, and you say, in the next year, inflation is going to be 8%. everybody will be looking at it and say, listen, what you are doing is not realistic because the price of goods and services are going up. And that means inflation. So you cannot right now predict that inflation is going to go to 7%, 8%. We expect inflation to go up rather.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so it means at times this particular analysis you can outsource a personnel.
Oh yes, you can. Even some companies, what they do is that they recruit a consultant. Yes, okay. A consultant or a strategy consultancy for them to do the analysis for them.
Okay.
And if within the company, if some companies have strategy department, and so that department, all that they do is formulating strategies, looking at the past, predicting the future, so that it will help the company grow. Some companies have their own consultants within. Some companies don't have it, so they outsource. They outsource so that this is done for them. Yes, any other question? All right, Gladys, I'm gonna let you go. Have a nice to see you all, even though I cannot see you, I didn't see you, but at least you've been part of the lecture. Those of you who were able to be part of the lecture, continue to read. We'll meet again next week. Right now, I would say 80% chance we'll meet face to face next week. Because next week I want us to do a test. And we cannot do the test. The test that I will do, I've already printed the questions. It's going to be about 20 minutes test. So bloody, all the things that we have done so far, read about them, yeah? I don't want us to be learning, teaching and learning, but no evaluation of your performance, whether whatever we have done so far you understand or not. So I want to give you a short test so that we know where we are.
So objectives of waiting.
Bloody, this bloody question. Do you think can Bloody answer that bloody question? Because your question is bloody. Your question is very bloody. Meaning your question is very hard to answer.
Hard to answer.
But what I can say is that it can be a bloody combination. It can be a bloody combination of the two. You see, bloody, I said it. Oh, those who are parents, you see the struggles that you are facing when we do online. See? So nothing comes easy.
Yes.
Nothing comes easy. Anyway, listen, nice to see you all. Have a wonderful Sunday. Take care and see you soon. The class reps, please let me have the attendance. If anybody didn't attend, don't add them because I'm going to give you marks.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
God bless you. Have a good Sunday.
God bless you too, sir.
Wow, so that was